Hello, guys. I wanted to follow up and give you some personal experience that I've had with Mounjaro and Zepbound, and maybe some tips that you did or didn't know that can uh, help you be successful going forward. And so, the um, as a disclosure, I don't get paid by drug companies, and I don't talk for them, and I plan to keep it that way. Follow up on our first video. I didn't post it to YouTube, but I've shared it with several people. I think that that first video showed this picture of 2.5 milligrams of medication, but what I'm going to be talking about here is actually 15 milligram dose, 15 milligram vial. That'll become important in a second. I wanted to review how to transfer medications in a sterile fashion. And so I made a little video here. These sterile vials that we get, we'll pop this plastic top off. You see the rubber stopper. We remove that rubber stopper and use a alcohol swab to sterilize the top. And then we're going to get a pen auto injector and inject it right into that fresh vial. We'll have to unlock it before you click it. And then put the injector pen into the sharps container. Then we're going to get a second vial with the rubber stopper intact and use that insulin needle to draw up the medication from the first vial into the insulin needle and then inject it through the rubber stopper on the second one, just like this. And now you'll have a multi-use vial. And you can see when you use the pen auto injector, it leaves some bubbles there. So you can't quite get it all out, but leave it in the fridge. The bubbles will go away and you might be able to get one or two drops left and put it back into your sterile vial. Anytime you access the rubber stopper, use a new insulin pen. And then put your insulin needle into the sharps container also. I've also, since January, recently tried using the auto injector transfer into a vial that has the rubber stopper intact, and I'll show you. I made a little video about that. Seems to work. So just get one vial, sterilize it, unlock the injector pin, and then the needle will actually puncture the rubber stopper. So this decreases the waste of those sterile vials. And you can see there's less bubbles at the bottom right here. And so, I don't know, the top felt a little wet, so I'm not sure how much we lost there. But there were no visible beads of medication either. So it seems to be working. Also, at the bottom of this video, I typed information, and it's, if you're familiar with YouTube, just below the channel name, Dr. Phil Riley, there is an information section, and you have to click on it to see it. And then I want you to read that like a love letter. And so here's a little video. You can see Dr. Phil Riley there, and you'll click right beneath it. That's the info page. And now you can scroll down and see all of our links to coupons and supply lists, as well as the dose and how much of the medication is for each dose. So for instance, 2.5 milligrams is 0.1 mLs on your insulin syringe. So read this like a love letter, and it will be beneficial. As you put it into your brain, you'll remember it easier. But you can also leave this YouTube site up and just follow these instructions. So a lot of folks ask me, I don't still understand the math behind how you're saving money using this. And so here's the math. $499 for a 1 month supply of 4 15 milligram vials. And so that brings the cost per vial down to $124.75. And if that's a 15 milligram vial, there are 6 2.5 milligram doses. So the low dose, and the only one I've ever used, is 2.5 milligrams. And so there are 6, 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5 times 3 is 15. So 6 doses, low doses per 15 milligram vial. That basically takes that $124.75 down to $20.79 per dose. And you may lose a little bit if you're transferring between vials, the wetness that I mentioned, if you're injecting the auto injector straight into the rubber stopper, there may be a little less than the full amount, but you get my point. It gets down to certainly a much more manageable price per dose. Still expensive, but it's a whole lot better than $500 a month. So it's $20.79 per dose instead of $499. So quite a bit of savings there. Now, if you go up on the dose, then the cost per dose is going to go up because we're using more of that 15 milligram vial per dose, and it won't last as long. So with this method, a month's supply gets you close to 6 months of medicine, and that's the math. So here's a little bit of my personal experience. I've been tracking my weight with a free app. You could either use this free app called Lose It, or the one I use is MyFitnessPal. They always try to get you to subscribe and spend your money doing silly stuff, but I always use the free version. And it's got an easy plus sign. You just click right here on your phone, and it's got a great user interface where you can put your weight in and the date, and then it will graph out the weight loss. And so since last summer, when I weighed 202 pounds, I've actually lost quite a bit of weight, 32.8 pounds and 10.43 kilograms for all you non-US patients. But anyway, 16.2% of my body weight, and that's just on the 2.5 milligram dose. And now I'm not sure everybody's going to have that same response. My wife is doing it and hasn't gotten that response, but she's losing weight and feeling better, and so do I. And so you can see how right at the beginning of January, this was exercise and diet changes from last summer, but it got me about 10 pounds. And then precipitously, I start this weight loss phase and now starting to plateau. And so during that weight loss phase, we don't want to increase the dose or you're going to get more side effects, nausea, constipation, diarrhea. And so I think that it's important to remember during the weight loss phase, you're going to lose weight and not be hungry. Don't increase the dose. Even if you're told by friends and family that, oh yeah, every month you can go up on the dose, don't do it. And wait until that weight plateaus. By the way, your hunger comes back as your weight starts to plateau. And so you can tell your friends and family that you're going to be hungry again, but you're not going to gain weight as long as you're still taking the medicine. And it's during this plateau phase that we're not quite sure. There's not a lot of science behind what's the best approach to the long-term maintenance of the weight loss. And so I'll tell you right now, 3.5 months in, I've lost enough weight. I don't need to lose any more. And I've started backing off on the frequency of dosing. And this will be my 3rd week with no medicine, and I don't seem to be gaining any significant weight. And my hunger's coming back, and I'm eating a little bit better, I would say. So that's a little bit about my weight loss. My lab work has really improved. Here are my cholesterol values. So my LDL's gone down almost 40%. My HDL's gone up, which is awesome. You want the bad cholesterol is the lard. The good cholesterol is the happy cholesterol. My triglycerides, I'm also very excited about this part, have gone down 33%. The LDL has gone down, the HDL has gone up, triglycerides have gone down. This is good news. So I'm excited about this, and I'm not taking a statin, but I'm getting as good a response as medium dose Lipitor. Now, again, I think every patient's going to be different, but I'm very excited about this. And the reason why I started taking this medication in the first place was because my labs showed my blood sugar was in the prediabetes range. Tips and tricks for success. Keep this stuff in the fridge, both your injector pens and the sterile vials. So keep them right next to each other. After you use the injection out of the sterile vial, put it back in the fridge until you've used it all. Sharps containers, if you're not used to using needles, we call them sharps in the hospital and in the clinic. Put all of your auto injector pens as well as your insulin needles in the sharps container. It's got a nice, this is a detergent bottle with a nice wide neck. You can secure it with the lid, mark it, let everybody know that that's your sharps. Don't put it out of the ability for your kids or pets to get into it. Fits nicely. Avoid dehydration. When you're on this medicine, you don't feel like eating. And so you have to make a point to hydrate. And one of the best ways that you can make sure that you're getting enough fluid is by looking at your urine color and consistency. And so you want that over in this realm. If I put a newspaper behind here, you could read the words through this clear vial. And so we use a term called turbid. If it's concentrated, it's turbid, and you can't read through turbid fluid. So light yellow or clear urine, it starts to get darker, you need more water. Alcohol and caffeine tend to be mild diuretics, and we really just want to replete the fluid with water. You're going to need to modify medications for blood pressure and blood sugar as you lose weight. So if you're on blood pressure medications, and so as we lose weight, we don't need the same doses. We will be able to decrease the doses and even remove blood pressure medicines many times. And so let's make sure that you're keeping an eye on your blood pressure, your pulse rate, your blood sugar. If you're on any other medicines to treat diabetes, frequently we can decrease the dose. So keep an eye on that. The other thing that's really become important probably in the last 6 months is if you need anesthesia for a procedure, we need to skip the dose the week before the procedure. So my normal day to take Mounjaro is on Friday. And if I have a procedure that's requiring anesthesia the following Tuesday, I'm going to skip the Friday dose. And that way I'll be off of it for at least 7 days before the procedure. I would tell you that it depends on the procedure and the type of anesthesia that you're going to get. So you need to reach out and ask your doctor for specific instructions. Most of the time, we are using a week. You got to skip the dose the week before so that you can have 7 days off. That's still in flux and it may change in the future, but for now, that's the guidance. All medicines are going to have side effects, and I alluded to this earlier. Here's a common list of side effects to these medications and the remedies for those side effects. Most of the time, it is make sure you're drinking fluids and staying well hydrated. We may need to back off on the dose or decrease the frequency of administering that dose if you're having these regularly and they're not going away. I've had 2 patients who've had pretty severe side effects so far, and really before that hadn't had any patients have significant side effects that I knew about. And so severe stomach pain or vomiting that doesn't go away, you're probably going to need to go to the ER and get some IV fluids administered. That goes a long way in helping folks feel better when they're having severe side effects. And it could be that you may be having one of the more intense complications of this, which is pancreatitis. And patients who have pancreatitis get really dehydrated, not just from the medicine, but from inflammation of the pancreas. And they need a lot of fluids. And so the only way we figure that out is by going to the ER and doing lab work. If you start to get yellowing of the eyes or skin, and you could have some possible gallbladder issues, it's not unusual for folks who lose weight quickly to precipitate a gallstone and have gallstone problems. You can start feeling faint or dizzy when your blood pressure or heart rate is low. So being dehydrated causes that. Also being on medicines that lower the blood pressure make it worse. And so you need to call us and let us know about this. Signs of an allergic reaction like redness or neck swelling happened to another friend who's a patient. They needed steroids, had to go to the ER for this. So allergic reactions are non-starters. We should not continue the medications if you're having an allergic reaction. And so it's a powerful medicine. We have to respect it. We have to know what could potentially happen. Here's a list of common side effects and remedies for those. There's a new update that just came out in the last couple of weeks that has to do with the pricing of Mounjaro and Zepbound. And so, first of all, I thought this was confusing to me at first, so I thought you should know it as well. Mounjaro is tirzepatide, and so is Zepbound. They're both tirzepatide, which is the actual name of the medicine. But the Mounjaro name is the name branded for diabetes, and Zepbound is the name branded for weight loss. So don't let the interchangeable names confuse you. It's all the same medicine, and they both work at the same doses in the same way. So they're both tirzepatide, but Mounjaro is branded for diabetes. Zepbound is branded for weight loss. And we'll just go through the Zepbound website. This is the website if you want to put it in your browser, but I'll have a link in the description below as well. The Zepbound website, again, branded for weight loss, is even different from the Mounjaro website. Nonetheless, we're going to go through the Zepbound to look at the website to look at the pricing changes. And so it gives you two options. I use commercial insurance through my employer, so I could use a savings card when I'm purchasing Zepbound. This does not include Medicare Part D patients. Medicare patients would be considered self-pay. So if I'm a commercial insurance patient, even if I was a Medicare Part D, that may go through Blue Cross Blue Shield, but this does not count for government beneficiaries. So only if you're employed under the age of 65 would we use this savings card, as long as we had medical insurance. So we hit that button, Explore Savings Card, and it brings us to this site. So pay as low as $25, get your savings card. So we fill in this date of birth, the phone number, and once we do that, we'll send a verification code that'll come through as a text message. We'll put that 6-digit code. I'm sure you've done this for other websites. And then we'll continue. And then it gives you these 5 numbers, and you can print that savings card onto a piece of paper. I imported mine to my iPhone to my e-wallet, and so the pharmacy will take both of those. It doesn't matter. They just use those numbers and plug it in to get their reimbursement. If I choose the self-pay option on that Zepbound website, you can see if at the bottom of the screen, the 2.5 milligrams is down to $349 per month. But anything above that is $499. And they've kind of caught on to what I just showed you earlier on in this video, that people are stretching the dose. Scroll down, you can see that 7.5 or 10 milligrams are available at $499. Notice there's not a 15 milligram dose available anymore. And we've heard from patients that the pharmacy isn't honoring it sometimes whenever we call in a 15 milligram dose. So I can't help what the pharmacies do. So if I scroll back up and click Visit Lilly Direct, they actually have their own online pharmacy where you can order a sterile vial or injector pens. And you can see the dose differences there. And so this is a online pharmacy called Lilly Direct that will allow you to avoid Walmart or Walgreens pharmacies and just ship it to you in one of these delivery mechanisms. And so you can see there, you can pause my video and look and read the details here, but they're changing the way that honoring prescriptions from us. If I scroll down, you can see that if we use Lilly Direct Self-Pay Pharmacies, and I've sent this in for a couple of patients so far. It's relatively new, so I haven't heard any feedback yet. But we send in the different numbers for the different delivery mechanisms, either the vial or the dose pen. To reiterate, the $25 savings card is not for Medicare Part D patients. So Part D patients are going to be self-pay. I've also learned through this process that you can also apply for medication assistance through Lilly. They have a foundation to help patients pay for medications. And I'm actually going to put that in another video. You'll see it. It's going to be video number 4. We'll call it Managing Patient Assistance Websites. Plan on using this format to continue to create and administer other patient education videos. And so I can be more detailed. So subscribe to the channel and you'll see when we're posting new videos. I'm kind of excited about this. If you have any comments, go ahead and put them in the comments below. But remember, check that info tab down below for links, web links to the coupons as well as to the materials that we recommend you use to stretch this dose. Hope this helps. I hope you're having a great day, and thanks for listening.